Welcome back to the channel, COINSX History US. Stop scrolling right now because the nickel in your pocket could be worth thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars. Today, we're diving into the top 5 ultra super rare Jefferson nickel coins that collectors are desperately hunting for. Some of these nickels were made by mistake, some survived history by pure luck, and one of them might even be sitting unnoticed in your old coin jar. From wartime silver nickels to shocking mint errors that changed lives overnight, this list will blow your mind. Watch till the end because the last Jefferson nickel could be the rarest and most valuable of them all.
Have you ever held a coin so ordinary in appearance yet hiding a legacy of post-war American ambition, economic transition, and numismatic intrigue? The 1952 Jefferson Nickel is not just another 5-cent piece. It's a silent witness to a nation, reshaping itself after World War II, a coin that bridges the story between wartime scarcity and post-war prosperity. And behind its simple Monticello design lies a tale of artistry, politics, minting struggles, and collectors' dreams that few have. Ever heard? Today we're diving deep into the world of the 1952 Jefferson Nickel, a story filled with mint marks, metal shortages, die varieties, and the quest for perfection that defined an era. So grab your magnifying glass, settle in, and prepare for a journey through time where every detail, every mint flaw, and every preserved nickel tells the story of America in transition. Welcome to a numismatic adventure that transforms the common into the extraordinary. And by the end of this video, you'll never look at your spare change the same way again. In the year 1952, America stood tall as a nation, entering a decade of innovation, prosperity, and cultural change. Yet beneath the surface of that optimism, the country was facing the after-effects of the Second World War and the rise of the Cold War tensions that influenced everything from industry to currency. The Jefferson Nickel struck in that very year was a small metallic reflection of that transitional era. It was more than just a coin. It was a statement of continuity representing American ideals through design, economic policy, and national identity. The Jefferson Nickel, introduced in 1938 to replace the Buffalo nickel, carried the image of Thomas Jefferson, one of the founding fathers and the principal author of the Declaration of Independence. This coin's creation was part of a larger artistic wave to modernize United States coinage with cleaner lines and patriotic symbolism. The artist Felix Schlegel, a German-born sculptor, had designed the portrait of Jefferson on the obverse and his famous home Monticello on the reverse, both of which became icons of mid-20th century American coin design by 1952. The Jefferson Nickel had already established itself as a staple of American commerce. The nickel was not only a tool of everyday exchange, but also a subtle reflection of economic stability and industrial strength. During this time, the United States Mint operated out of 3 major facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, each contributing its own production of the Jefferson Nickel for the year 1952. The Philadelphia Mint struck around 64 million coins, the Denver Mint produced approximately 30 million, and the San Francisco Mint added roughly 20 million to circulation. Each of these coins, though identical in design, had minute differences and mint marks that now fascinate collectors. The Philadelphia Mint had no mint mark, while Denver's coins carried the D and San Francisco's the S. These small letters beneath the right side of Monticello on the reverse were symbols of identity that separated common nickels from regional rarities. The design itself remained faithful to Felix Schlegel's original concept, though subtle. Modifications had occurred over the years to improve die life and clarity. Jefferson's bust was modeled in a neoclassical style, emphasizing his intellectual dignity. His gaze turned to the left with calm composure, while the word liberty and the date 1952 stretched elegantly across the right field above his profile on the reverse. Monticello was depicted with symmetry and precision, its steps, doors, and dome reflecting the ideals of structure and order that Jefferson himself cherished. However, not all 1952 nickels captured this detail perfectly due to die wear and mechanical limitations. Some coins appeared weakly struck, especially around the steps of Monticello, leading to what collectors now refer to as the full step designation AI, feature highly prized in grading today. To understand the importance of the 1952 Jefferson Nickel, we must look at the broader economic context. The United States in 1952 was in the midst of the Korean War, which began in 1950. This conflict affected the allocation of metals as the government prioritized strategic materials for defense purposes, while nickel was not rationed as severely as during World War II. The mint still faced challenges balancing cost and supply. This scarcity contributed to a focus on production efficiency and die maintenance. The mint had to ensure each planchet was properly annealed and struck with consistent pressure to achieve a satisfactory result. The durability of the nickel alloy, 75% copper and 25% nickel, was ideal for circulation, but hard-on dies leading to frequent replacements and minor variations in strike quality. These subtleties are what make the 1952 Jefferson Nickel so intriguing to collectors today. The mints each had their own production challenges. Philadelphia, as the primary mint, handled the bulk of the coinage and maintained the highest output. But the Denver and San Francisco mints produced coins with their own distinct characteristics. Denver coins are known for relatively strong strikes, though, with occasional die erosion that softened the finer details. The San Francisco Mint in 1952 was nearing the end of its coinage era for circulation coins, soon to cease production. After 1955. Thus, the 1952 IS Jefferson Nickel carries historical importance as part of that closing chapter. The S-mint coins often exhibit weaker strikes, but carry charm due to their limited mintage and regional distinctiveness. Collectors have long studied the varieties and errors of this coin year. One of the most fascinating aspects lies in die breaks, repunched mint marks, and overpolished dies, which produced anomalies such as missing steps or doubled details. These are the accidental artworks of the minting process, each revealing something unique about the life of a die and the pressures of production in a high-demand post-war economy. Among the more noted varieties for 1952 are the repunched mint marks on both Denver and San Francisco issues. The repunched mint mark occurs when the letter punch was applied twice to the die slightly off alignment, creating a shadow effect. These varieties are now cataloged and valued highly, especially in higher grades. In circulation, the 1952 Jefferson Nickel saw widespread use as America's economy expanded. Families were buying new homes, cars, and appliances, and nickels passed through millions of hands. In daily commerce, vending machines, jukeboxes, and telephone booths all consumed nickels by the millions. The coin became part of the soundtrack of the 1950s, a small metallic symbol of convenience and progress. Yet while millions were spent and saved, few recognized the artistry and precision that went into creating each piece for numismatists. Every small detail mattered, from the luster of the metal to the strike sharpness and die alignment. As the decades passed and the Jefferson Nickel design endured through countless changes in politics and culture, the 1952 issue began to stand out for its historical positioning, sitting firmly between the wartime nickels of 1942-1945 and the modernized issues of the late 1950s. It represents the steady normalization of America's coinage and economy. Collectors began seeking examples in high grade with full steps and brilliant luster. As the numismatic market evolved, grading services like PCGS and NGC began certifying these coins, assigning premiums to those in pristine mint state condition with perfect step details. A full step 1952S or 1952D Jefferson Nickel can fetch significant value today due to their rarity and such preservation. The Jefferson Nickel itself continued its journey through American pockets until design changes began to modernize the portrait in 2004 and 2005. Yet the 1952 issue remains frozen in time, a mid-century snapshot of American artistry and industrial resilience, when coins were still struck from solid metal rather than plated composites. Its simple beauty and historical depth attract not only collectors but historians who see in it the story of America rebuilding and redefining itself after the turmoil of global conflict. If you examine a 1952 nickel under magnification, you can see the craftsmanship that the mint engravers applied. Every contour of Jefferson's face, every architectural line of Monticello carved with precision. Despite the limitations of the mid-century equipment, it's a small yet profound testament to the American mint's dedication to quality even in an age of mass production. From metal sourcing to die engraving, each stage carried human skill and attention to detail. These were not just coins, they were miniature works of national art. In the world of coin collecting, the 1952 Jefferson Nickel occupies a respected position bridging eras connecting collectors to a time when the mint's mechanical rhythm echoed the nation's progress and perseverance. Its value lies not merely in its monetary worth, but in the stories it carries, stories of mint. Workers, artisans, and citizens who used it daily to buy milk, newspapers, and gasoline. It's a coin that silently watched history unfold from the Korean War to the dawn of rock and roll. Have you ever held a 1988 Jefferson Nickel in your hand and wondered what stories it carries, what secrets lie within that simple 5-cent coin? Today we dive deep into one of the most underrated yet fascinating chapters of American coinage history. The 1988 Jefferson Nickel, a coin that may look ordinary to the untrained eye, but hides within it a world of design evolution, minting perfection, collector obsession, and market surprises from the hands of the engravers at the Philadelphia and Denver. Mints to the collectors who now chase rare full-step varieties across the globe. This nickel represents more than just change. It's a mirror reflecting the final days of an era before modernization swept through American coinage. So stay tuned, because what you are about to hear will completely change how you look at the nickels in your pocket. This is not just a coin, it's a time capsule from 1988. The year 1988 was a pivotal one in the history of the United States Mint. The nation was on the edge of change both technologically and economically, but the Jefferson Nickel stood as a symbol of consistency, a coin that had remained largely unchanged since its debut in 1938. Yet in 1988, subtle transitions were already brewing changes that would influence the design and production of nickels in the years to come. This coin marked the closing chapter of an era right before the mint's modernization wave began in the 1990s, when digital engraving and laser scanning would revolutionize coin making forever. To understand the 1988 Jefferson Nickel, we must first go back to its roots to 1938, when Felix Schlag's design replaced the long-running Buffalo nickel Schlag's design, featuring Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello on the reverse became an American icon. The design had undergone small refinements over the decades, but by 1988, it had reached a point of both artistic maturity and technical limitation. The mints in Philadelphia and Denver were working under different die conditions. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 459 million nickels, while the Denver Mint struck over 662 million. But despite these massive numbers, collectors know that not all nickels are created equal. The difference between a common circulation strike and a high-grade full-step specimen is night and day. Full-step nickels, those that display complete and sharp details on the steps of Monticello, are among the most sought-after varieties of the Jefferson series in 1988. Achieving a full step strike was particularly difficult because of worn dies and striking pressure variations. This challenge makes well-struck examples from that year extremely desirable to serious collectors. The San Francisco Mint also played its role in 1988, producing proof nickels for collectors. These proof coins were struck multiple times on polished planchets, resulting in mirror-like fields and frosted devices. The 1988 S-proof nickel showcases the height of precision for that era with clean details that contrast beautifully between Jefferson's portrait and the dark reflective background. These coins were sold directly to collectors as part of the United States Mint proof sets and remain an important part of the 1988 nickel's story from a design perspective. The 1988 nickel was a continuation of the traditional Schlag layout. Jefferson's profile faces left his expression calm yet determined. The word liberty written in his own handwriting connects this coin to the founding ideals of the United States on the reverse. Monticello stands proud, a symbol of Jefferson's intellect and architectural vision. However, by the late 1980s, mint engravers began noticing die fatigue and design softening, especially on Monticello's steps, which were often not fully rendered. The mint's technology of the time was still based on hand hubbing and mechanical presses, meaning that the consistency of strike varied greatly from batch to batch. Collectors today identify three main mint marks for 1988: the Philadelphia, with no mint mark, the Denver with a D, and the San Francisco with an S-proof issue. The Philadelphia issue is generally the most common, while Denver nickels are known for slightly better strikes and stronger details. However, the real treasures lie in high-grade examples graded by PCGS or NGC, especially those earning the coveted FS designation, which stands for full steps. These coins can fetch significant premiums in the collector market depending on their condition, rarity, and eye appeal. Interestingly, the 1988 nickel is part of a transitional era for Jefferson Nickels in the years immediately following 1988. The Mint would start preparing for the use of computer-assisted engraving, which changed how dies were produced forever. The 1988 coins were among the last to be created entirely through traditional craftsmanship, making them historically significant as the bridge between the old and the new methods of minting. Another aspect worth noting is the metal composition. The Jefferson Nickel since 1946 has been made of 75% copper and 25% nickel, a durable alloy that resists corrosion and gives the coin its characteristic silvery appearance despite being struck in the millions. The quality of these coins depended heavily on die condition and press maintenance. Many 1988 nickels show weak strikes on Jefferson's hair and Monticello's dome, which makes fully detailed specimens highly collectible today. For modern collectors, the 1988 Jefferson Nickel holds both nostalgic and numismatic value. It's a coin that connects the everyday spender to a deep history that stretches across the 20th century. Its affordability makes it a perfect entry point for new collectors. While high-grade examples and proofs attract seasoned numismatists who appreciate the technical nuances of die quality and strike precision, the coin may not have the war-silver composition of the 1940s nickels or the dramatic design changes of the early 2000s, but it has a quiet significance representing endurance through change as you explore this coin further. Consider how many of these nickels have passed through countless hands since 1988, vending machines, grocery stores, gas stations, and pocket change yet among them might be a rare gem. A coin with the perfect strike that survived circulation untouched, resting quietly in a roll or a jar, waiting for a collector to rediscover it and recognize its true worth in the grand tapestry of American coinage history. The 1988 Jefferson Nickel might seem like a small thread, but when you look closer, it's part of a story that spans artistry, technology, and heritage. Every curve of Jefferson's face, every step on Monticello's staircase, tells the story of American resilience and innovation. In the world of American coins, there are mysteries that have fascinated collectors for generations, but few stories capture as much intrigue, curiosity, and hidden history as the story of the Jefferson Nickel, especially the elusive year of 1975, because, believe it or not, there is no officially released 1975 Jefferson Nickel, and yet stories, rumors, and myths about this coin continue to echo through the halls of numismatic history. Today we are diving deep into the fascinating history of this remarkable coin, the Jefferson Nickel, a design that has stood the test of time since 1938, and the mystery behind why there is no 1975 dated nickel struck for circulation. This is not just a story about metal and minting. It is a story about America itself, its economy, its changing designs, and the decisions that shape the coins in your pocket. Welcome to a journey through the past, a story that will make you look at every nickel differently forever. Now let us go back to the mid-1970s, an era defined by political change, economic struggle, and transition in American culture. The Vietnam War had ended. The nation was recovering from the oil crisis, and inflation was running high. The U.S. Mint, like every other institution, was adapting to new realities, and in this turbulent period, the Mint made one of the most interesting decisions in modern coinage history. That decision would make the 1975 Jefferson Nickel a coin that technically does not exist. To understand this, we must first revisit the history of the Jefferson Nickel itself. The Jefferson Nickel was introduced in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel after a design competition. The winning design came from Felix Schlag, a German-born sculptor who captured a neoclassical portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and the president's home, Monticello, on the reverse. It was elegant, simple, and patriotic, and over the decades, the design would endure through war, peace, and countless social changes. During World War II from 1942 to 1945, the Mint changed the composition of the nickel, removing nickel metal itself to save it for the war effort, creating the so-called wartime silver nickels, which had a large mint mark above Monticello and a distinctive look. When the war ended in 1946, the Mint returned to the original copper-nickel alloy, and production continued steadily through the 1950s and 1960s. By the time the 1970s arrived, the Jefferson Nickel was a familiar sight in every American's hand. But behind the scenes, major changes were brewing. The Mint had introduced the Eisenhower dollar in 1971 and was already planning for a new coin honoring the bicentennial of American independence in 1976. The bicentennial project would transform the quarter, half dollar, and dollar coins, all of which would bear dual dates, 1776 to 1976, and special commemorative reverse designs. However, the nickel, dime, and penny were left out of this celebration, yet the Mint had to carefully manage its production schedules to make room for the enormous output of bicentennial coins. In 1974, millions of Jefferson Nickels were produced across Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco for circulation and proof sets. But as the Mint geared up for the bicentennial, coinage, a decision was made to skip the 1975 date for the nickel as well as for the dime and quarter, because all presses and dies for these denominations were retooled to begin immediately striking 1976 bicentennial issues for the larger coins, and 1974 dated coins for the smaller ones, which continued into early 1975 production runs. In fact, the Mint continued to produce coins, dated 1974, well into the early months of 1975, effectively replacing any need for 1975 dated nickels, thus no regular issue 1975 Jefferson Nickels were ever released. This rare decision created what collectors today call the missing year. This brings us to the heart of the mystery. The United States Mint never produced a coin with the 1975 date for the Jefferson Nickel. Yet rumors have persisted for decades that test strikes or experimental pieces exist. Some stories suggest that Mint engravers prepared sample dies with the date 1975. Before the official production plan changed, others claim that a handful of test impressions were made on nickel planchets to check die alignment and pressure before being destroyed, though there is no verifiable proof of these pieces existing. These rumors have fueled generations of treasure hunters and collectors to inspect every nickel they find, hoping to discover what could be the rarest Jefferson nickel of all for serious numismatists. The absence of a 1975 date is as fascinating as any rare coin, because it highlights how coin production is influenced by planning, logistics, and national events. If you look at the production records from the Philadelphia and Denver mints, you will find that in 1974, over 884 million nickels were struck, and in 1976, over 570 million were produced. But in the official mint report for 1975, there is a blank line under the nickel category, a small but powerful reminder that sometimes the story of a coin is not just about what was made, but also about what was not. Meanwhile, in 1975, proof sets produced at the San Francisco Mint contained coins dated 1975 for the cent, dime, and half dollar. But the nickel in those sets remained dated 1974, adding another layer of intrigue to collectors. Even more fascinating was the famous 1975 no-S proof dime, an extremely rare mint error that escaped into a few proof sets and became one of the most valuable modern coins in U.S. history. That error further cemented 1975 as a year of anomalies and mysteries for American coinage. As we move deeper into this story, let us explore the broader context of American coin collecting. In the 1970s, coin collecting had become one of the most popular hobbies in the United States, with millions of Americans searching their pocket change for silver coins, rare dates, and mint errors. The Red Book, officially known as a guidebook of United States coins, was in nearly every collector's home, and the Jefferson Nickel series was a favorite because it was affordable, completable, and historically rich. By 1975, collectors were beginning to notice that no new nickels bore that date, leading to speculation that a special bicentennial nickel might be coming. When the 1976 coins were finally released, many were surprised that the nickel design had not changed at all. This confusion further contributed to the mystique of the missing 1975 nickel. From a technical standpoint, the Jefferson Nickel of the 1970s remained virtually unchanged in composition, consisting of 75% copper and 25% nickel, weighing 5 grams with a diameter of 21.2 millimeters and a smooth metallic appearance on its surface. The Philadelphia Mint struck coins without a mint mark, while Denver placed a small D to the right of Monticello in San Francisco continued to produce proof coins marked with an S. By 1975, advances in die preparation and planche quality had made the coins more uniform than ever, though die wear and strike quality still varied significantly from batch to batch. Let us now discuss the economic factors that influence the mint's production schedule. Inflation in the mid-1970s was at its highest level in decades, and metal prices fluctuated rapidly. As a result, the mint was under pressure. To reduce costs and streamline production priorities were given to denominations that were in higher demand, and those tied to the bicentennial commemoration's smaller coins, such as the nickel, were considered stable in supply since large numbers from previous years were still in circulation. The mint simply saw no need to issue a 1975 nickel. This pragmatic decision, though efficient for the government, would later become a collector's obsession. Fast forward to the modern era, and you will find that the story of the 1975 Jefferson Nickel continues to fascinate both veteran numismatists and newcomers alike. Every major coin reference book includes a note about the missing 1975 date and discussions of why it was skipped. Some collectors even create display albums with a blank space between the 1974 and 1976 slots, labeling it the Phantom Year of the Jefferson Nickel. It serves as a conversation piece, a reminder of how even a small administrative choice by the mint can ripple across decades of coin collecting history. In today's numismatic market, coins from 1974 and 1976 have gained subtle attention from enthusiasts who look for transitional varieties, planchet errors, or unusual die characteristics connected to the 1975 gap. Certain 1974 nickels struck in early 1975 sometimes show slightly different die wear patterns, which some collectors romanticize as indirect evidence of the missing 1975 production. Though this remains speculative, the allure of this theory keeps interest alive. From a historical perspective, the 1975 Jefferson Nickel is a lesson in timing, policy, and design continuity. While other denominations embraced change during the bicentennial era, the nickel quietly stood still, holding onto its classic Jefferson Monticello design that would remain virtually unchanged until the Westward Journey redesign of 2004 and 2005. And later, the modern forward-facing Jefferson portrait introduced in 2006. The absence of a 1975 date thus marks both a pause and a bridge between two great chapters of American coinages. You hold a 1974 or 1976 nickel in your hand. Imagine the machinery, the decisions, the mint officials and engravers who debated production schedules in the 1970s. None of them could have predicted that their practical planning would give birth to one of the most mysterious dates in modern U.S. coinage. The 1975 Jefferson Nickel remains not a coin to be found, but a story to be told and a question to be asked every time someone flips through their change. What if one escaped? What if somewhere out there lies a 1975 nickel waiting to be discovered? Imagine holding in your hand a coin that millions of Americans used every single day without a second thought, yet hidden within that ordinary piece of metal lies a story of American pride, craftsmanship, and quiet evolution. The 1998 Jefferson Nickel may look like any other 5-cent piece, but behind its simple design is a legacy that connects generations of mint workers, designers, and collectors from the Great Depression to the digital age. In this video, we will uncover everything about the 1998 Jefferson Nickel, its origins, its subtle design, details, its production secrets, the historical context that shaped its creation, the mint marks, errors, and varieties that make certain examples worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars, and why this small coin still matters to numismatists today. If you think every nickel looks the same, think again, because the 1998 Jefferson tradition of American artistry and symbolism, built around Thomas Jefferson, one of the nation's founding fathers. By 1998, this coin had already been in production for 60 years. And though its design had remained largely unchanged since its introduction by sculptor Felix Schlag, it had become a living timeline of minting technology, evolving metal compositions, and national identity. During the late 1990s, the United States Mint was undergoing major modernization programs after decades of mechanical upgrades. The Philadelphia and Denver mints were operating with high-speed presses capable of producing billions of nickels each year. The 1998 production reflected this efficiency, combined with remarkable consistency in strike quality and detail. Yet despite technological precision, the 1998 issue stands out for subtle but significant factors that attract collectors today. In 1998, the mint produced Jefferson nickels at two main locations, Philadelphia and Denver. The Philadelphia mint pieces bore no mint mark as was customary after 1980, while the Denver mint pieces carried the small letter T located to the right of Monticello on the reverse side. The San Francisco Mint also struck a limited number of proof coins specifically for collectors, which featured a deep cameo mirror finish produced by multiple high-pressure strikes using specially polished dies. These proof coins from the San Francisco Mint are among the most visually stunning examples of the 1998 Jefferson Nickel. Their brilliance, depth, and crispness make them favorites for presentation sets and proof collections. Across America, the design itself is a continuation of Felix Schlag's 1938 creation. The obverse features a left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson, his gaze calm and dignified, symbolizing intellect and leadership. The inscriptions, "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" frame his profile along with the date, 1998, and the mint mark. If present on the reverse side stands Monticello Jefferson's Virginia home, a neoclassical architectural masterpiece that represents his vision of Enlightenment architecture, and self-sufficiency beneath it. The word Monticello sits in bold lettering followed by the denomination 5 cents and the nation's title United States of America. Though these design elements had persisted for decades, the quality of their impression in 1998 was sharper and more refined than in earlier years. Because of improvements in die engraving and planche preparation, the fields were smoother, the lettering more defined, and the steps of Monticello more visible, leading to what collectors often call the full steps designation. The full steps designation is a critical detail for numismatists. It refers to coins where the steps at the base of Monticello are fully struck and distinct from each other without blending or flattening due to die wear or insufficient pressure. A 1998 Jefferson nickel with full steps is significantly rarer and more valuable than a typical circulation strike. Such coins demonstrate precision striking conditions and perfect die alignment for collectors. Searching through rolls of nickels or uncirculated mint sets, the thrill of discovering a 1998 full steps nickel is comparable to finding buried treasure because it proves the coin left the press in near flawless condition. The 1998 minting year is also important because it preceded a major transitional period for the series only a few years later in 2004. In 2005, the United States Mint would redesign the reverse of the nickel as part of the Westward Journey series, marking the bicentennial of the Lewis and Clark expedition that shift-ended over 6 decades of uninterrupted use of Schlag's design. Thus, 1998 represents one of the last years of the classic Jefferson nickel in its original form before the changes that would redefine the coin's appearance. For a new generation collectors who value historical continuity, view the 1998 issue as the close of an era, a bridge between the traditional and the modern in terms of mintage. The Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 630 million nickels, while the Denver Mint contributed over 570 million, making the total mintage exceed 1.2 billion pieces. Despite this massive number, the condition of the coins varies widely due to handling and circulation wear. Most examples show dull surfaces and worn steps, but uncirculated and proof strikes maintain strong luster and high detail. Proof coins from San Francisco numbered around 2 million and are readily available, but still hold collector interest due to their exceptional strike, and finish error coins from 1998 add another layer of intrigue to the story. Off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planches, and die cracks occasionally emerged from the mint that year. While quality control had improved compared to earlier decades, human and mechanical factors still allowed minor flaws to escape into circulation. Certain errors, especially those with dramatic off-centering or double strikes, can command high prices among specialists who seek rare manufacturing anomalies. The most desirable examples often combine minting mistakes with full steps or uncirculated surfaces, multiplying their value and appeal. The composition of the 1998 Jefferson Nickel followed the standard post-war formula of 75% copper and 25% nickel, a balanced alloy chosen for its durability, resistance to corrosion, and ease of minting. Though lightweight, the coin's metallic mixture gives it a distinctive silvery hue and a pleasing ring when dropped on a hard surface. By the 1990s, the mint's supply chain for nickel and copper was fully stabilized, ensuring consistent quality and uniform toning across the nation's production. The planches were prepared by cutting blanks from long metal strips, then annealed, cleaned, and fed into high-speed presses that struck each coin with tens of tons of pressure in milliseconds. This process resulted in sharp reliefs, but occasional striking weakness in high points of Jefferson's cheek or the dome of Monticello still occurred, leading to grading differences among otherwise identical pieces. Grading is another essential aspect of the 1998 Jefferson Nickels numismatic profile coins are typically evaluated on a 70-point scale developed by the Sheldon system, where M is 60 designates a mint state coin with noticeable marks, and Ms. 70 represents perfection. In the 1998 series, mint state 65 and above pieces are considered premium examples. Coins with mirror-like luster and crisp details often receive MS67 or MIMS68 grades from major services such as PCGs and NGC, the rarest. Gems with full steps and flawless surfaces can fetch substantial prices at auction, far exceeding face value. For example, a 1998 Jefferson Nickel graded MS68 full steps once sold for hundreds of dollars, demonstrating the strong collector demand. For top-tier quality, even from common modern dates beyond technical details, the 1998 Jefferson Nickel carries cultural resonance. It symbolizes the enduring stability of American coinage during a decade marked by economic growth, technological change, and optimism. The 1990s saw the rise of the internet, globalization, and digital finance. Yet amid all this transformation, the humble nickel remained physically unchanged. A small piece of continuity that linked Americans across generations. It circulated through gas stations, diners, vending machines, and school lunch lines, acting as both currency and quiet history bearer for millions of daily transactions. Every worn 1998 nickel tells the story of where it traveled, who spent it, and how it survived. The shift from analog to digital money. By the end of the decade, the mint was preparing for the 21st century, introducing new dye preparation technologies and experimenting with laser engraving that would soon revolutionize coin detail. The 1998 issue stands as one of the last to rely entirely on traditional mechanical hubbing methods, making it historically significant. From a production standpoint, its craftsmanship bridges the hand-engraved past and the digitally engraved future. For this reason, advanced collectors often preserve high-grade 1998 nickels as time capsules representing the last chapter of purely mechanical die work in the Jefferson Nickel lineage. When examining a 1998 Jefferson Nickel, collectors look for several identifiers: sharp portrait detail, strong luster-defined steps on Monticello, absence of die fatigue on the reverse rim, and clean fields free of marks or discoloration. Some examples may tone naturally over the years, developing golden violet or blue hues due to environmental exposure. Such toning can enhance aesthetic appeal and add unique personality to the coin, increasing its desirability within the hobby. Have you ever held a coin so ordinary in appearance, yet so deeply tied to the history of a nation rebuilding itself after a world war? Have you ever wondered how a small 5-cent piece could reflect the changing face of America, its struggles, its rebirth, and its quiet power? Welcome to the world of the 1947 Jefferson Nickel, a coin that might just be resting in your pocket right now, but carries a legacy that stretches from the end of World War II into the dawn of the modern American era. Today, we are diving deep into the story of this unassuming yet fascinating coin, exploring its creation, its purpose, its hidden variations, its connection to post-war America, and why collectors today still seek it out with passion and precision. The year was 1947. The United States was emerging from the devastation of the Second World War. Factories, once dedicated to producing tanks and ammunition, were now switching back to consumer goods. Soldiers were returning home, rebuilding their lives. And the U.S. Mint was returning to its pre-war practices. The Jefferson Nickel, which had been introduced in 1938 to replace the Buffalo nickel, had become a symbol of consistency, stability, and American identity. The coin featured the noble portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, designed by Felix Schlag, a German-American sculptor whose design had been chosen through a national competition nearly a decade earlier. Jefferson's image represented not just the third president of the United States, but also the ideals of democracy, science, architecture, and independence that were central to the American character. By 1947, the wartime composition of nickels, which had included silver due to metal shortages, had ended between 1942 and 1945. Nickels contained 35% silver, making them part of what collectors now call the wartime alloy series. But in 1946, the mint returned to the traditional composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel, a mix that produced a brighter, harder wearing coin as America transitioned to peace. The 1947 Jefferson Nickel was one of the first full years of this restored metallic balance, making it a symbol of economic normalization and renewed prosperity. The coin was minted in 3 primary locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, each producing its own variety, marked respectively by no mint mark for Philadelphia, a small D for Denver, and an S for San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint produced the largest number of nickels in 1947 with over 100 million coins struck, while the Denver and San Francisco mints produced significantly fewer, giving their issues a higher interest among collectors. The 1947 S in particular is known for its lower mintage and often better strike quality, making it a gem among mid-century nickels. The design of the Jefferson Nickel remained largely unchanged in 1947, yet its details held subtle evolutions. Felix Schlag's original design had been modified slightly over the years to improve legibility, and striking the obverse displayed Jefferson's left-facing bust with the inscription, "In God We Trust" on the left, and "Liberty" with the date on the right, separated by a small star. The reverse featured Monticello Jefferson's home in Charlottesville, Virginia, with the inscriptions, "E pluribus unum United States of America," and 5 cents. Schlag's Monticello design was initially criticized for its flat perspective and lack of depth, but by 1947, the Mint had refined the dies to give the building a more realistic architectural look that better reflected Jefferson's neoclassical masterpiece. For collectors, the 1947 Jefferson Nickel offers a range of fascinating varieties and conditions. To explore, one of the most notable features in the series is the full step designation on the Monticello building on the reverse. When struck sharply, a nickel will show 5 or 6 distinct steps at the base of the building. Full step examples are rare, especially from earlier dies, and are highly prized by collectors because they indicate an excellent strike and pristine preservation. Finding a 1947 Jefferson Nickel with full steps, particularly from the Denver or San Francisco mints, can make the difference between a coin worth mere cents and one worth hundreds of dollars in high mint state grades. Grading the 1947 nickel requires a close eye on details. The obverse should show a sharp outline of Jefferson's hair and cheek, while the reverse should display clear architectural lines across Monticello. The field should be clean with minimal contact marks. Since nickels were used heavily in circulation, many examples show wear, particularly on Jefferson's cheekbone and Monticello's dome high grade. Examples are thus rare and desirable. Mint state coins graded MS-65 or higher can bring impressive prices, especially with full steps designation. But beyond numismatics, the 1947 Jefferson Nickel tells a story of an America redefining itself after the global turmoil of the 1940s. The war was over, but the Cold War had begun. The atomic age was dawning, and American confidence was surging. The mint's return to its traditional nickel composition symbolized a return to normalcy, yet a readiness for innovation. The very metal in the coin spoke of durability and endurance, much like the spirit of the people who carried it in their pockets to buy bread, newspapers, or a cup of coffee in post-war America. The Jefferson Nickel series itself stands as one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history, stretching from 1938 into the 21st century, and the 1947 issue rests squarely in the heart of that legacy, a bridge between wartime scarcity and post-war abundance, between old-world ideals and modern American identity. It is a coin of transition and stability, a reflection of a nation stepping confidently into its future. Over the decades, collectors have come to appreciate the 1947 Jefferson Nickel not merely for its scarcity or variations, but for what it represents. It marks the return of peacetime, minting the continuation of Felix Schlag's elegant design and the enduring appeal of Jefferson's vision. The coin is a time capsule of mid-century America, the optimism of the post-war years, the economic boom of the late 1940s, and the faith in progress that defined an entire generation. When examining the 1947 nickel, you are not just looking at metal and design. You are holding a story in your hand, a story of resilience, craftsmanship, and national rebirth. Whether it comes from the gleaming presses of Philadelphia, the efficient output of Denver, or the precise strikes of San Francisco. Each 1947. Jefferson Nickel carries a piece of that narrative through every ridge, edge, and detail. So the next time you come across a Jefferson nickel dated 1947, take a moment to see beyond its surface. Look at Jefferson's calm expression, the proud dome of Monticello, and the timeless words that surround it. They speak of a nation that rebuilt, redefined, and rose again from the shadows of war into an era of prosperity. The 1947 Jefferson Nickel is not just a coin. It is a monument in miniature, a testament to America's enduring spirit, and a shining link between the past and the present. If you are a collector history lover, or simply someone curious about how everyday objects carry the weight of extraordinary stories, then this coin's tale will draw you in and remind you that even the smallest things can have the biggest histories. Welcome to the story of the 1947 Jefferson Nickel, where every strike tells a chapter and every glimmer of metal whispers the promise of a nation reborn.